Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I guess I will go ahead and get started, even though we don't have a large audience. I'm going to be showing transit plans today for Transit 7. And if you have not been on any of our calls yet, you'll see that when you sign on to transit, the screen looks entirely different. Depending on what your position is, you'll have different boxes here that are showing that are supposed to be quick links to things you might be interested in that day. Currently, we have them for testing and a box for admins. In the next few days, you will be adding it also for plans. So it'll show the plans that you that are currently active and plans that you have steps in, but that's not available yet. Again, if you haven't been to one of our sessions before, user settings have moved. So instead of it being your name, it's your initial here, and you click and it'll bring up your user settings. And from here, you have the ability to sign out or change your password. This is where you would also put in whether or not what email you want to send messages to and what phone number you want to receive texts at. There's also right now for test rounds the ability to turn on emailing and texting, and soon there'll be another box down here for plans and the ability to turn on emailing and texting for plans. So now under org settings, there are org settings that are applicable to plans. And the one in particular that is different is under your admins, under users, used to be able to add roles. Roles has now moved under the org settings. So this is where you would build any roles that you plan to attach to any steps in any plans. And again, your organization should figure out what the roles are that you want. You can see in this list here, they've put things like their team names, they've put in things like support for cutovers, etc. And so any list of roles can be built. And those are what you would pick from in your activities in your plans. So now if we go to the plans page, this looks pretty much the way it always has. Shows the status of your plans. At the bottom, it shows the totals across all plans. And this is the percent complete, the percent that are late, or sorry, the number of activities that are late, number that have not started, in progress, and so on across the row. I will update on the issues column because people are sometimes confused about this. This 3 here doesn't mean that there's 3 issues. It means that 3 activities have issues on them. So if each of those activities had 2 issues, so you had a total of 6 issues, it would still show 3 there because this is giving you the number of activities that have issues. So all of the numbers on this page relate to the number of activities. And it's always been like that, but there has been confusion. In a couple of the other plan sessions we had this week, we had deprecated the ability to show the comments, and we had people vote on whether or not they wanted the comment to come back, and overwhelmingly people did, and so it's been added back in. So if you're not familiar with it, when you right-clicked on any plan and chose Edit Plan, you had the ability to go in and put whatever kind of a comment you wanted and save it, and it would display on the plans page when you went back to your plan. So there aren't many other differences here from the plan page. If you want to add a plan, you still click Add Plan. What is a little bit different is the fields that show. Oh, one of the other user settings is category. So category is also now one of the items you build under org settings. So again, your organization needs to decide what you want your plan categories to be, and then you just need to send a message to your admin, and your admin has the ability to build these custom for your site. So whatever kind of plan it is, you choose that, you choose the project. If you want to use start and finish time in your plans, then you tick this box. Usually that would be for a cutover type plan. So normally a regular plan is just a list of activities, and if you want something to finish on a date and you don't care if it's noon or 4 p.m., then you don't need to tick that box. But if you're using Transit for cutover plans where you're tracking, the minutes up till midnight or after midnight, or the minutes up to whatever your go live time is, then you're going to want to tick that box. When I click save, it takes me inside the plan, and these are our base rows in the plan. So not exactly the same as they used to be, not exactly in the same order, but the same basic idea. So this role column is where you would choose from those roles that get built. So if I click the drop down list here, it'll bring that whole list that we saw that was built under the org settings. Obviously, the signed is going to pull from your user file. So if you want to assign tasks to vendors, that's no problem at all. You just need to set them up in your user file. And again, that's something that your admin can do for you. So that's not all that different from now. Again, if you want to customize the plan, so you want to add different fields to it, then what you're going to do is right click the header and go to custom columns. This is largely the same as it is in TransIT 6, with the difference being that in TransIT 7, it doesn't strictly follow the column width from here. These are sort of the starting column widths. But what it tries to do is it always tries to resize to get the best use of real estate on your screen. So to fit as many rows on the screen, it does an automatic calculation and resizes. So if it's important to you that certain things are certain widths, then you have to use this maximum or minimum to indicate that. And where that might be useful is if you're using our percent driver columns with checkboxes. Those you probably don't ever want to be wide columns. So if I wanted to add in one of those percent drivers, I'm inside my custom columns. I click add column. I need to give it a label. So we'll say, so after I give it a label, I give it a type. In this instance, it's going to be a checkbox. And when I choose checkbox, I then choose a sequence. So that's where I want it to fall in the screen, what column number I want it to be. So if I wanted this to be between the assigned and the depends on, I could make it column 41, for example, and I click save, and then my column is built. So when I go back and look here at my base plan, then here's my finished column, and here's the width that it started at, which seems like a pretty decent width. But if I wanted to go in and change the widths, if I go back here and go back to my custom columns, if for some reason I wanted that to be a specific width, what I would have to do is I would go in here. Oh, I didn't say it was percent driver. I'd said I was going to do that. So this is the one that says that when I tick that box, it's going to update my percent complete. It gave it a pixel width of 50. If I wanted it to be 70, let's say, then I would put 70 and I would put that's the minimum and that's the maximum. And then it's going to make it always be 50. Sorry, 70. So when I go back, you can see it now shows the whole word finished. And again, because that's a percent driver, when I click that one, it tells me I'm 100% done. If I had 2% driver columns, when I click it, it would say 50%. So if I go in and add another one, whoops. If I go in and add another custom column, oops. And I'm going to make that one be right beside it. So I'll make that sequence 42 and click save and go back and look at my base plan. You always have to reset the status if you add another column. But so now when I click this, it'll say 100. When I unclick it, oh, it's supposed to reset to 50. I didn't click my percent driver. Sorry, I have to go back and save it. It's a percent driver column and then go back here. And when I unclick it, it then removes the percent complete. If I want to go in and Travis, can you log that? Oh, wrong. Okay, Travis Alabaster, can you go in and log that we don't have the recalculate of rows? So again, as you click these, it then marks them done. And, if you want to say this row is dependent on the first row, you put in a number 1 here, and then it says it's stopped because this one isn't marked completed. When I mark that completed and refresh my screen, it takes that hand away. The other thing that's nice in Transit 7 is the ability to add issues. So if I right click and I add an issue here, oops. I can choose to add the vendor or not as I choose there. I give it a priority and an impact. You can put in a screenshot if you want. If I do a screenshot and I come here and paste my screenshot in, then when I go and look at that, the image will display in the issue. When I add issues, it puts them into the column here, and if I hover over it, I can see my issue. If I want to open the issue, I click it, and you can see there's the screenshot I put in. So much easier, nicer issue functionality than we had before. If I go back into that plan, the other thing obviously is that, these all pull from your lists, so we can assign, and obviously you would put what the activity was. So most people who are using our plans now are uploading content from Excel. So if you're going to upload from Excel, then what you need to do is first of all come in and you need to export to Excel, and that's going to give you the column headers. So then if I open that, let me drag it from my other screen here. So if I open that plan and I want to import in, so say there was a whole bunch of activities that I wanted to do and I want to add them in. I'll get rid of those 2 rows. And then I want to import this in. I'll save it. Go back to my plan, right click, look for that file to import. And then click import. It's important to remember to export, or to do the export to Excel first if you've had custom columns. If you aren't using custom columns or you're just using the base plan, then you can just save a copy of the base plan and use it. But you can see it brings in whatever it is you've put in the plan. So not that much different from the functionality from TransIT 7 from an import export, except that in TransIT 7, it's actually a file you're importing in versus before when you used to cut and paste from your clipboard. Again, there's the ability to have multiple issues against the same activity, which is nice. And if I go back now to my plans, you'll see that it's showing that there, oh, I spelled that wrong. It shows 1 in here because I have 1 issue logged. For plans, those are the real major differences. Does anybody have any questions about plans? So if you're not using TransIT plans in TransIT 6, I highly suggest that you play around with them in TransIT 7. They are really great for any kind of checklist functionality. And we have a lot of clients using them for things that they didn't used to think were easy to do in TransIT, like things like charge validation. So if you've done some new build and you want to validate all your charges, people are building out those sort of plans in TransIT where you would have columns for each of the steps along the way. So did the person complete the DTA to be able to drop the charge? Having a tick box for that. Did you check that the charge dropped in Cerner? If you're sending it to another system, did you check that it made it to the other system? A lot of people are using it for things like that, or for things like their marketing department to track development of content for the website. So if you're not using Transit yet or transit plans yet, I would suggest you go ahead and play with it in Transit 7. And again, if you have any questions ever about anything in Transit, you can always send a message to support@makesolutionsinc.com. The other thing is that before the end of today, hopefully what we're going to be doing is sending all the admins, or at least the lead admin for each site, a document. I think it's about 4 or 5 pages that shows what the major changes are from Transit 6 to Transit 7. And hopefully you'll be able to use that in your site. Does anybody have any other questions? All right, if not, then we'll conclude the session early. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.